Hello everybody, it is Deborah with Kensington Cross Stitch. Today is Saturday, October 21st, 2023. And earlier today it was rainy and it was gloomy, and it probably is going to be rainy and gloomy a little bit later as well. But as you can probably see right now, the sun is shining. So that probably is a sign that we need to spend a little bit of time together talking about cross stitch, right? That's what I was figuring. It has been a busy couple of weeks for me here. I was thinking about this earlier, and this time last week I was at the Stitch New England retreat in Massachusetts, which, spoiler alert, was amazing. 2 weekends ago at this time, I was starting a leisurely weekend in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario. And then 3 weekends ago, I was on the Queen Mary 2 sailing from New York to Quebec City. I had an adventure. It was so much fun. I will talk about that, but it was, I was thinking about this. It was the first no, no plans, no expectations, nobody else, just chance to relax and enjoy vacation that I have had in 4 years. I mean, I've gone on trips, I've gone on vacations, I've had time off, but this was just, there was nothing on the agenda except relaxing and enjoying, and it had been 4 years. So thanks, COVID. That was great. But it was a really good time. What else? Earlier this week, I was at a recording of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, the NPR News quiz. They were in town recording this week's episode. By the time this goes live, I believe it has already been broadcast, but it was really fun to get to see that as a back end, what's happening behind the scenes. The show was probably about 2 hours long, and it's an hour long when they go on the air, so there's quite a lot of editing, obviously, that will go into the process, but just getting to see the behind the scenes of that was really enjoyable. And then tomorrow, a friend and her family and I are going to go up to Sturbridge Village in Massachusetts for Phantoms by Firelight, which is their kind of Halloween time of the year. And so we'll be going up. I think that'll be a really fun thing to get to do. So lots of just fall things happening. And obviously we've got cross stitch to talk about as well. As I said, I'll chat a little bit about the retreat last weekend. I had a wonderful time at that. We'll go through the giveaways that we had from the last video. I'll show you my recent stitching and a few other things. So thank you again for coming in, spending a little bit of time with me today, and I hope that you enjoy. So the first thing that we will do is go through the couple of winners of last video's giveaways. If you'll remember, I was giving away two things. One was a pin that I picked up when I was at Juliette Gordon Lowe's house in Savannah. She's the founder of the Girl Scouts. And this pin is going to Linda Boudreau. Linda, congratulations. I have another package that I need to get in the mail for you. So this will absolutely, I promise this time, is going to go in the mail to you very, very shortly. So congratulations to Linda. And I will say, Linda, I know I was in probably very close to you. I was only in town for a couple of days. Otherwise, I would have absolutely contacted you and suggested to get together. But next time. The other winner of the giveaway, which was for a very old Mill Hill kit called a Cat ABC, and the winner of that was Barbara Bryce. So congratulations, Barbara. Barbara and Linda, I have both of your addresses, so I will get that in the mail to you both very, very shortly. So congratulations to you. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Stitch New England retreat, which happened last weekend. This was the first time that this retreat has ever happened, and it was put on by Pam and Kevin, who own the shop Stitch New England in Massachusetts. And it was, as I said, an absolutely fantastic time. This was not quite 300 people, not only from the New England area, but we had people from across the country who had traveled in for this retreat, and it was so chill and relaxed. It was just a wonderful time to sit and stitch, meet friends, make new friends, meet old friends, and it was just so enjoyable. I wasn't sure what to expect going into almost 300 people in a room. Was it going to be busy? Was it going to be hectic? And it was just so relaxed. It didn't feel like you were in a crowd. It didn't feel like you were with so many other people. Obviously there were, but it was just, it was enjoyable. One of the things that I really liked that they did is there were tables for people to sit and stitch at, and there were 6 people at every table, and there was a helium balloon at each of those tables. And so somebody who was walking into the room for the first time, who didn't know anybody, maybe didn't know where to sit, could easily look out across the space and see that spaces were available. So it meant that if there was a balloon at your table, there's an open seat, come and join us. And then when those seats were filled, the balloon would go away. So it was a really nice, just low-key way to help people feel welcome and take out some of that kind of worry of walking into a big space and not knowing what to expect. And that was kind of those little touches were things that you saw all weekend. And so we were able to sit and stitch and enjoy. I wound up sitting at a table with 4 other people from the Connecticut Stitching Circle, which is the group that Rachel, CT Stitcher on Instagram, and I have been hosting for the last few months. And we had a couple people there who were saying, this is my first retreat, I don't know anybody, let's all sit together. So we did. And then we were joined by Peggy, who was our 6th person at the table and fit right in. We had a wonderful time chatting together, getting to know each other a little bit more, getting to know Peggy, and just talking about our stitching and enjoying it. So it was a really good opportunity to do that. There was plenty of space at all of the tables. It was just relaxed. I do have to say, I took a lot of projects with me. I think I took about 8 projects with me, and I worked on 2. I did finish both of them, which was really my goal, was to get those both done, but I was overly ambitious and didn't actually get as much stitching done as I had thought I might. I know I have heard a lot of people say this. I think this is a very common thing at retreats, just because there's so many other things to do. There are people to talk with, there's shopping to do, there's whatever else it is. But, you know, I am absolutely pleased with the amount of stitching that I got accomplished, but it was definitely, I had good plans going into it. That isn't what actually happened. So let me show you some of the goodies from the retreat, because what's a retreat without goodies? And Pam and Kevin absolutely delivered on this. So we all received a goodie bag, and it was this 2023 retreat bag. It's a tote bag. You know me, and you know I immediately thought like, I'm going to turn this into a project bag. But so far, it's still a tote bag, and it will stay that way for some indeterminate period of time, but that was great. We also received another number of other kind of branded items. So a notebook and a pen, which will be very handy for all kinds of things. We received this little sticker, Wicked Awesome Stitching Weekend. This was kind of the theme of the weekend. There were signs and things like that. And of course it's in cross stitch. So that was fun. Looking forward to putting that one in my planner. We also received, at our tables, not in the bag, but I assumed that this was from them, is a needle minder with a little flower on the back attached to the magnet, so that would be great. And then Tracy from OG Stitchery made one of these for every person who was there, and it was included in our bag, and it's a scissor fob, and it's just the kind of colors of the weekend were blue and orange. Everybody who was working was wearing an orange t-shirt like this, so it was very easy to see everybody, but thank you to Tracy, because this is super fun. And then we also received one of these little stitch, now I'm blanking on the name. It's a stitch marker. It tells you how to get started on your project, of where to start your project, so you have the right margin. So that was really fun. And then in addition to that, we got a couple of patterns, both by Helen Dailey, Helen D. And one of them, I thought this was so fun, is actually to make a little pocket for your stitch marker. And then you stitch it, and it comes with all of the fabric that you need. It came with all of the floss, a needle, and then you just sew up a little pocket and slip your marker in there, and go from there. So that was really cute. I thought that was fun. I've seen a couple people do variations on this. I've seen kind of somebody who's run some thread kind of along it, somebody who's done some beading on the side. So easy pattern to stitch up, but also something that can be pretty easily customized as well. So I have stitched this up. I will show that to you in the stitching portion, but that was a really neat little gift for everybody. And then we also received another Helen D pattern, and this one is called Mushroom Mayhem, and it's this little skunk on his little tree trunk surrounded by mushrooms. And as you can see, there's a version that is for DMC, one for over dyed, and then you can either make it as a flat finish or a stand-up or the strawberry. I will probably do the strawberry, but like, how often do you get to see skunks in patterns? And it's super cute. So Helen is going to be releasing this pattern, same place that she sells all of her other patterns. And then I believe that there is also a companion one, which is a squirrel. So those are really cute. So thank you to Helen. And then, of course, there was some stitching pieing that was happening. There was a chance to buy some things for stitching. Those are the words I was looking for. So there was a stitching annex that was 2 rooms outside of the ballroom, and that was trunk shows from a variety of designers and others with wonderful things to purchase. There was a lot of fabric that was available, patterns, project bags, all kinds of things. And then if you wanted to, you could also drive yourself or take a bus over to the Stitch New England shop, which was just a couple of minutes down the road. I didn't do that just because I've been to the shop before, and I knew I have access to that whenever I want to, but I did definitely spend some time in all of the trunk show rooms. And I was really good kind of the first pass. I bought a couple of things, and then I went back and I bought something else, and then I went back and I bought something else. So I still think I did pretty well, but there was definitely purchasing that was happening. So the first couple of things that I bought were some patterns, just 2 of them. One of which is by Counting Puddles. And this is Topsy Turvy Tea. And this is one that came out a number of months ago with the Tea Time palette from Treenway Silks. And this was all of the designers who were stitching for X Stitch the Rainbow, using the same palette of colors and then related to the theme of tea. And this is one that really caught my attention at the time, but I hadn't seen it into shop and I hadn't really sought it out. But the moment I saw it, I was like, well, that one's mine. So I got that one. And then I also purchased one from Pedal Pusher. And this is one that Helen had shown on her video recently. It was a fairly recent release. And I really love those colorful pumpkins. There's just something about pumpkins I enjoy, but I particularly love the kind of like oddly colored ones, the white ones, the teal ones, things like that you see. And this one was just too cute. And as much as the colors pop on this pattern, in person, the model is just even that much more brighter and more attention grabbing. And so the moment I saw it, I was like, well, there we go. So I picked up that one, and that will be, I don't know if I'll get to start that one this year, but something definitely to put on the list for next time. I also picked up 2 pieces of fabric, and I'm not going to show them to you because the lighting is such that it's not going to be very reflective of what they are, but I'll just briefly show them. So this one is a Forbidden Fiber fabric, and it is a very, very pale light green, and it's called Spearmint. So I just thought that one would be good. And then I also picked up one from Atomic Ranch Fabrics, and this is a 36 count. The other was a 32, and this one is called Willow, and it's a brighter, more saturated green, but again, still kind of a very faint mint green. And I thought with Christmas and with spring coming up, both of those would be good to add to my collection of fabrics, having a couple of greens like that. So very happy to have a couple pieces of fabric. And then I picked up a project bag. This was the thing that I really the first time I walked through, I said, oh, that's really cute, but I don't need any project bags. I can make project bags. I don't need it. And then I went back and I was like, that's still really cute and it's still there. And no, I don't need a project bag. And then the third time I went back and I was like, I don't need a project bag, but I'm going to buy it anyway because it's adorable. So I picked this one up, and this is, look at those little sloths. They are so happy and cheerful and just enjoying themselves. And it's got just kind of this nice little fabric in the inside, and it's got a little pop-up that you can put your orts or something inside of, and that came with it. And then a back, and it's just very lightly quilted, really nicely made, beautiful. And this is by Lumi and Pie. They had a number of bags there. And it comes, of course, with this little ID tag as well if you want to label it. So I resisted and I resisted, and I had to give in because those sloths were just looking at me so happily. So new project bag. So those were the things that I purchased while I was there. I did get a couple of gifts, both from my table mates, which was really wonderful. A couple of them brought it. I was that person who just brought like a whole bunch of candy. Sorry, everybody. I went home with most of the candy again as well, but that was what I did. But a number of people brought all kinds of really fun things. Chris and Jane brought their kind of traditional retreat gift, which is beads and a needle. There's some buttons in here, and then everybody got one of these, and then one of them had something special in it, and you won an extra prize. But even so, you can't go wrong with having a collection of seed beads. There were also, I didn't catch the name of this person, but look at how clever this is. It's a piece of thick cardboard and it's folded over and it's got a piece of felt in it for putting your needles in. And then it's just stapled and cut. So it's like a little matchbook for your needles. And I was like, that's very clever and that is wonderful. So I unfortunately didn't catch the name of that person, but I thought that was a fantastic idea. Kathy and her daughter, Kathy from Two Needles Pulling Thread, and her daughter came by and they gave everybody a little frog that you can name. And the intention was that by sitting him by your stitching, you could prevent other unwanted frogs from coming and visiting you. So it worked for me. I know I had a couple other people at my table who had to deal with the frog, but it worked for me. So thank you guys. There were also a number of floss tags, of course. This one was from 805 Stitcher, and this is actually a picture of her small from the Smalls Exchange and Stitch New England 2023. So that was really cute. Memphis Sarah E was with us, and she gave away scissor fobs or kind of tea tags on that one. So thank you to Sarah. Another one that I didn't catch the name of the person. It was just some beeswax so that you can use that on your threads. Tiny little needle minder that somebody gave everybody. We got a couple of these. I got one from my table mate as well, and it's those little brushes that you can use so that if you do have to frog and you've got kind of loose threads, you can just use it to clean it up. So I got a couple of those, which is great. This one was from Brandy, so thank you, Brandy. Carolyn dropped off these little kind of bag tags, and I picked up a cute little giraffe, which I thought was fun. Carol, sorry about that. We also had little kind of a little decoration from Stephanie, who is STEM Racine. That was great. Little bee. We got a couple other project cards. Homesteading on the Home Front. Somebody who had kind of made this one that's about New England, specific to Stitch New England, which I thought was really cute. Rachel from our table gave those out for everybody. Criminally Creative was actually going on kind of a craft tour and had made some commemorative cards for everybody, kind of like, here's what I'm going to this fall. So I thought that was really a great way to commemorate it. We had this from Count Twice, Stitch Once, another one who was there with us at the retreat. I got something from Crazy Band Lady Stitches, who gave me this little kind of, we got to pick out something. I got a little bee decoration. So lots of really fun things that everybody was so generous about. I know that this is something people talk about at retreats. It is not expected. It is not required that people come with gifts either for their table or for everybody, but a lot of people do enjoy doing that and sharing. It's a way to kind of like get your Instagram name out or your YouTube name, or just to simply do something nice for other people. So like I said, absolutely not required, but it was just so fun to be sitting there and somebody would come over and say, hey, I made this little thing for everybody, please enjoy. So thank you to everybody who shared that with us. It was a really good, really wonderful thing for you to bring and to share with all of us. So thank you. So there were all kinds of gifts and purchases. Like I said, I got some stitching done. I could have maybe gotten more stitching, but I was distracted by the shopping and the talking and all kinds of other things. The one other thing that was really fun about the retreat was, of course, the Smalls Exchange. Again, it was optional, but I did participate in that. I have to admit, it was touch and go. I got my piece fully finished the day before the retreat, but I did get it done. So I will insert a video that I recorded of that to show you the piece that I did here. And then hey everybody, it's Deborah. I just wanted to show you the smalls that I submitted to the Stitch New England Smalls Exchange for 2023. And here is what I did. This is a piece called Liberty and Cherry Tree by Priscilla's Pocket, and it was finished on 35 count Weeks Dye Works straw, I think it was, and it was stitched using a couple strands of Gloriana silk. And so what I did is I just finished it as a flat piece, and then I mounted it on this tiny little kind of charcuterie board, cutting board that I found in a shop, and then I did kind of just a ragged bow there with the flag, stars and stripes there. So I think it's really cute. Hopefully the person who receives it will enjoy it. And it was really fun to participate in the Smalls Exchange. So hope you guys enjoyed seeing this as well. Hopefully there was a video there. If not, that was just a little bit weird transition. But that was the piece that I stitched, which was Liberty and Cherry Tree by Priscilla's Pocket. And then I want to also show you the piece that I received in the Smalls Exchange because it was absolutely stunning. It was, oh my goodness, it was amazing. And I just keep looking at it and I'm in awe of the piece that I received. So I will show, I first got, sorry, let me start over again. So the way that the Smalls Exchange worked here, because we had such a large crowd, was everything was divided up into a couple of different groups. And I was in the first group, which was on Friday afternoon. And you received a chip that you could kind of say, I brought a small, I'm exchanging it, and had a specific time that you would go and do that. And then everybody was asked to decorate their bag or their container a little bit so that you could tell something of what was inside of it, the theme of it, and so that people weren't completely picking blind. And I saw a really cute little bag that had a bee scarf kind of peeking out of the top. And that was what first drew my attention. It's just this yellow scarf with bees on it. And I thought, oh, that was really pretty. And it had these really fun little sunflowers kind of peeking out of the top there. And I just thought that just seems cheerful and fun. So I picked it up and I received just a really wonderful, there was a card in there from the gifter. It was this really nice little bee card. And this was from Andrea, and she is on YouTube, which I somehow had not seen her channel before, but I will definitely be, well, I've watched one. I'm going to be coming back for more. But it was Andrea's Cautionary Tales on YouTube. And then on Etsy, she is Shadow House Stitchery. She has a couple of really cute designs there. And it was just a little card kind of talking about how she chose the design that she was working on and why she chose to contribute it. And it is absolutely stunning. I'm going to say she'd never made one of these before, and this is her own design. She designed this piece and stitched it up. Look at this. It's a biscornu, and it's all bees and flowers. I mean, look at this. It has the name of the retreat. It has all of those fun little bees, and they've got metallic little wings so that they're shiny. Look at that stitching. And look at that. It's one variegated, one plain, one variegated, and it's got those cute little, just another button company buttons on the top. This is absolutely stunning. It is, I opened this up and it was just amazing. It is beautiful. I said it at the time, kind of I hung around trying to see Andrea, hoping somebody would kind of come and I would be able to figure out who she was because I hadn't met her yet. But this is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. I haven't put it out yet, of course, because I was waiting to film my video, but I cannot wait to have this piece out and on display because it is just absolutely beautiful. So thank you. Thank you, Andrea. This is something absolutely to treasure, and I wanted you to know, again, how much I appreciated it. So thank you. So that was the Smalls Exchange. It was really wonderful to get to participate in that. I am Stitchin' at the Farm is coming up very shortly, and I will be at that, and I'm planning to participate in that Smalls Exchange as well. Again, I still need to fully finish my piece, but it is just, as much as I love stitching, like there is something special about sharing your stitching with a fellow stitcher in this way. So it was just a great chance to do that. So that was fun. So that's kind of the recap of Stitch New England. I know there have been another number of other Flosstubers kind of talking about their experience as well, but everything was, like I said, it was just so relaxed and well organized. It was just such a good opportunity to spend some time with other stitchers. They have announced that next year the retreat will be returning. This is going to be continuing. So next year is October 17 through 19, and tickets will kind of go on sale for that in the new year. So if you didn't get to go, if you were thinking about it, that will be coming back, and I would highly recommend it. It was fantastic. So I had a good time. Thank you, Pam. So with that, I think I will turn over to actually, we're 23 minutes in. Maybe I should show you some stitching today. I don't know. But I do have a couple of pieces to show you. I have a finished object. I have a whip that I'm continuing to work on. And then I have 2 starts and finishes. So things that you've not even seen before. So we'll do that now. So the first one that I want to show you is something I showed in my last video, and this is Salty Seagulls by Helen Dailey, and I am done with that one. When you saw this last, I had finished most of it, but I needed to do the fill-in for this second seagull. I needed to finish the variegation in his wing, and then I needed to do the fill-in on the rocks. And I had left that thinking it would be a very good retreat stitching. And so I took that. I did get this finished on kind of the Sunday of the retreat. By that point, the retreat was officially over, and so I didn't get to ring the bell, but I went ding, ding, ding at my tiny little table, and that totally counts. So this was stitched on 28 count even weave, and this is a fabric that I dyed myself. It's blowing out a little bit in the light, but it's basically like a mottled cantaloupe color, which I thought was a great background for it. I used most of the called for colors if I had them, but I did make 2 substitutions because I didn't have them, and I figure I have plenty of floss. So those 2 were Tom and Lily's Lazuli, and then also Victorian Motto Prairie Sun for the yellow. But other than that, I used the called for colors, which was a mix of DMC and fancy floss. The one thing that I did kind of want to point out that I did, I knew that because this rock was going to be variegated, if I had stitched back and forth in long rows like I probably normally would do, I knew that I would wind up with some fairly long stripes of color, which isn't quite what I was looking for. And so what I did is I would stitch in very small sections. I would just do, 6, 8, 10 stitches over and then back, and then a slightly shorter or longer section on the next row, so that I was kind of working in chunks across. And so that way I wound up more with some pooling of the colors rather than just long stripes, which I thought was a little more kind of reflective of what you might see in a rock. But other than that, I just kind of stitched the normal way. And I just think that's really cute. And I've got what I think is going to be my fully finished idea. With that, I need to take these colors over to the store and pick out some paint. I get to do some painting, but that will be something that I, at some point in the future, will fully finish so that it will be ready for next summer for decorations. The next one to show you is a piece that we had talked about last time, and this is Winter ABCs, and this is by Little House Needleworks. And this is a sal that I have been hosting. We started in September, and this one is the hashtag a year of ABCs sal. And the idea of that sal is we are going to be stitching all 4 of these seasonal pieces broken down in thirds. So each pattern is going to take us 3 months to stitch. We're going to be doing A through I the first month, J through R the second month, and then S through Z the third month. So we started in September, I finished part 2 for October, and then in November we'll have the full piece done. And that way we would have time to fully finish it and get it on display for the actual season that is in the piece. So December, January, February. And then in December we'll start with spring and continue on throughout the whole year. So if for some reason this is something that you're just catching up with and want to join us, please feel free to step in, or if you want to join us in December with the spring piece, if you want to take some time to get your items together for stitching that. But I have been working on that one steadily, and I have now finished the second part of it. And this is where we are. So when you last saw this, I had only gotten down through the E and the sled, and then I have now finished all of that first month and gone on and finished my second section as well. And that white is continuing to pop on the blue color. This is 32 count French blue by Fabrics by Stephanie. The only major change that I am making is I am replacing some of the red. Any place where you see blue is in the chart supposed to be red. And I had gotten the idea from Made by Michelle McGraw, who did this, to change it to blue to be a little bit more of a winter piece as opposed to something that may feel like it's Christmas because of the red. I did leave some of the red in there because I feel like, berries should probably be red, and I think it makes more sense for cardinals than blue jays in this type of thing, but I actually really like having both of the colors. I feel like this one more than The other pieces really only felt like it had one kind of central color, which the other ones had some more attention. So I think that having both of those works really, really well. So that is Winter ABCs. And like I said, please feel free to join us on the sale at any point. So that was my whip. And then I have two start and finishes. The first one is the Wicked Awesome Stitching. This was the piece from the retreat. I didn't get it started at the retreat because I was really focusing on getting a couple other pieces done, but I came home that evening afterward and just sat, and it stitched up very quickly. This was maybe a couple of hours of stitching. And then I will turn it into that pocket. I do have to say, this is 14 count Ada, and it is Freeze by Atomic Ranch Fabrics. It is the softest. As you can see, it's just like, it's so soft. It is, I have to resist the urge to like rub it against my cheek because it's delightfully soft. So I enjoyed that. But so that one is one of my start and finishes. And then the other one is the piece that I took with me on my vacation. I knew that I was going to be sitting and having a lot of time to stitch while I was away. And so I wanted to pick something that was slightly more ambitious than some of the projects, the smalls that I tend to work on when I'm at home. And I have talked in the past a couple of times about wanting to stitch Suffrage Act by Little House Needleworks. And I thought this would be a really good time to work on that project because I knew I was going to have some dedicated stitching time. And I have also mentioned in the past, Megan, who's the Seattle stitcher, when she stitched this, she changed the color of the bunting to the Suffrage Act colors, which is Suffrage Movement colors, which was purple and gold and kind of a white and cream. And so she changed her bunting. And all I did was I just continued to carry that idea through, and I replaced all of the blue and then most of the red with the purple and cream. I did retain some of the red for the bricks and the berries just because, again, that makes sense. But I was able to start this on the first day of my vacation, and I finished it at the retreat. I was so happy. So here is my piece. I really love that the stitching of the design of the headline. It feels like a newspaper headline. And I think that switching out the purple and gold in the piece really works as well. It feels bright, it feels celebratory. And again, just keeping a couple of those red elements down in the bricks and the berries made sense. But I did also change the flag. Of course, in the pattern it was the US flag, but I changed it to the suffrage flag. Yeah, so I really like that. It was funny. I was on the boat and I was stitching, and there was actually a craft get together most afternoons there was a chance to get together with other crafters. It was mostly knitters, but I did go along and kind of crash their party. But I wound up sitting next to a couple from England who are both cross stitchers. She has been a cross stitcher her whole life. And apparently about 15 years ago, her husband was just like, so do you think I could do that? She taught him to stitch, and now he is just as avid a cross stitcher as she is. He stitches full coverage pieces. It was stunning to get to see some of his work. But I was showing them my project, and the wife was like, I think there's green in the suffrage thing. And I said, I think in England there was green in it as well, but the US kind of colors were primarily purple and gold. So anyway, I am really pleased, and I got to ring the bell while I was at the retreat and work on that. So I'm really happy. I'm not sure quite how I'm going to finish this piece yet. It's probably going to get framed, and I think I'm going to hang it in my office at work. But for now, it's stitched, and we'll figure that out in a little bit. But again, I think I used just kind of substitutions rather than the specific called for colors. And then I did make those two color changes with the purple and gold. And this was stitched on 32 count Grog by Be Stitch Me, which was one of the Fabric of the Month colors from this past kind of maybe a year or so ago that I had picked up. So that's my stitching. Those were my starts and finishes. And I enjoyed getting a chance to kind of relax and take some time and do that. So that is all of my stitching over the last few weeks. But again, you know, a fun time to do that. All right. The other thing that I want to do is I want to talk a little bit just, of course, about recent acquisitions, because What would a floss tube be without me spending a little bit of money? The first one I want to show you is not stitching related, but you'll understand why I purchased it. I was killing some time yesterday afternoon, and I was at World Market, and they already have all of their Christmas stuff up, and I saw something and I had to buy it. It is a pretzel Christmas market stall. It's so cute. If you are new here for the very first time, what I'm talking about is I just finished Twin Peak Primitives Christmas Market project, and one of the stalls there, and my favorite, was the pretzel stand. So I saw this and I just thought, this is perfect. I'm going to frame it, I'm going to hang it on the wall, and I'll be able to put this near that piece in my winter display when I get ready to do that. And it takes batteries and lights up. So it was just too cute. It was too cute to pass up. I had to get it. So that's the pretzel stall. And then the rest of what I picked up was just a couple of kind of stitching adjacent things from my vacations. You know how I love to do that. So these were the couple of things that I picked up while I was traveling around. And I've decided that this is also a great way not only to kind of commemorate stitching and do that, but also just have a memory of the travels that you're doing. So I picked up several things that will be like scissor fobs or decorations or project bag bling, things like that. So I did get something from the Queen Mary 2, because you obviously have to do that, and it spins, so I thought that was fun. And then I picked up a couple of keychains. This was when we were in Quebec. So there's the crest. This is a very fancy hotel that sits at the top of the hill in Quebec City, and then the fleur-de-lis. So I got that one to commemorate being in Quebec. I picked up something similar for Nova Scotia. And so I've got the Blue Nose 2, I've got Piggy's Cove Lighthouse, and then Love Nova Scotia. So those will be great on project bags. And I picked up something similar in Quebec. One of the things that I did while I was there was I went to a dinner at the Sugar Shack, which is a place where they actually make maple syrup. And so this is just commemorating that. So I thought that was cute. And they're very small. It's also nice to keep travel souvenirs that are small. And then I picked up a pin from the Blue Nose 2 so that I can turn that into a needle minder as well, because what else are you going to do with pins? You turn them into needle minders. When I was traveling, I found a yarn shop, and I didn't buy any yarn, but I did buy this little craft kit. And look at that. It's a little penguin, and he has little floaties that you put on his arms. It's so cute. I just had to. It was just too cute. So, wool felt, baby floaties. I was in that same shop. I also picked up a project bag, and it's this puffin with his little sockies that are falling off. So that one will be fun, already all zipped up. And then also in that same town, they had 3 bookstores all within about 2 blocks of each other. Like, you could stand at one and you could see the other bookshops. And one of them had a sign out front, and I think it said, arguably one of the 3 best bookshops in town. And I thought, that's exactly my kind of humor. I enjoyed that. But I did pick up just a little tote bag, which I will of course turn into a project bag. And that was for the bookstore. And then the other thing that I picked up, well, let's be honest, I picked up a lot of things. These are just the things that are sort of vaguely stitching craft related. The other thing that I picked up is a little tin of mints. You can hear I'm working my way through them. There's 1 mint left. But this one was just to commemorate sailing on the Queen Mary 2. But this is how it's needlework related. I have been needing an Ort container for when I travel, and I thought this was a great size for that. I'll be able to just collect Orts in the bottom. It has a twist off, and then what I'm going to do is stitch a very small piece and attach it to the inside so that when I open it, I have some stitching in there as well. This is a sticker. It'll wear off eventually, and I'll probably put some stitching on top, but for now, it has the souvenir. So those were just some of the things that I picked up on my travels recently. And yeah, that is the stitching content for the day. I am going to spend a little bit of time just kind of talking about my vacation in case you're interested. If not, thank you for joining me, and I hope I will see you again in the next episode. But if you want to hear a little bit about sailing on the Queen Mary 2, I will chat about that, because why not? It was fun. So you may remember in my last episode, I talked about wanting to do a transatlantic sailing on the Queen Mary 2. It's the last ocean liner, kind of transatlantic ocean liner in the world. And I just think there's something really magical about doing that type of thing where the journey is the destination. You're there and you're experiencing the mode of travel as the vacation itself. But kind of taking the time off and the money that it would require, and I want to get a balcony. I want to do some things. And so it wasn't quite on the cards yet. But while I was looking into this, I found that there was a sailing that was going to be going from New York up to Quebec City this fall. And as far as I could tell, they do this sailing once a year. I'm sure it's coincided to try and hit the kind of the fall tree colors as you head up the landscape. But they had an indoor cabin, like one of the cabins where there's like, you're inside, it's the cheapy cabin. And they had one of those available, and I just thought, you know what? Why the heck not? So I booked it fairly late in the game and had a wonderful time. It was 8 days, 7 nights. We left from New York, ended in Quebec City, and along the way we stopped in Halifax, Saguenay, and then Quebec City. We were supposed to stop in one other city, Sept Îles, but unfortunately the winds were so high that day that it wasn't even safe for the boat to kind of go to the dock. So we continued on, but I have to say I wasn't really sad about that because so much of what I wanted to do was just relax and experience what was on the ship and was available. And so I just got to spend an extra day there, and I spent part of that day in the aquatherapy pool, which was amazing. It was amazing. So I had kind of booked that and just had a wonderful time. It started as an adventure. It was an adventure to get onto the ship. The day that I left, I just took the train down from Connecticut down to New York. I was going to get into Grand Central Station and then just take a lift over, and it was going to be super easy. The day that we were leaving was the day of the flash floods in New York. And you may remember seeing that in the news. It was not a good day for New York or travel or any of those things. So I was on the train and we got partway down and they kept giving us these messages of like, and eventually we got to a point where they just said, we cannot take the train any further. You have to get off. And they kind of gave people very perfunctory directions on just get on this bus and then you get on the subway and then you do this and then it'll be fine and good luck. It was not nearly that easy, but and unfortunately by the time we did that, the subways and the buses were also being impacted by everything that was happening, of course. So we basically got partway there and they just stopped at a random station in the Bronx and were like, yeah, bye. We need to turn around. So they dumped a whole trainload of people off at this tiny little station. It took 15 or 20 minutes just for people to like get out of the station. There were so many people climbing up these little rickety stairs. And then I was outside and I decided, I was like, I could spend the next several hours like desperately trying to get across the city in public transportation. I was like, or I could just suck it up, and I got a Lyft. I called somebody. It took a while. Several people canceled on me because I was like, I'm going from the Bronx to Brooklyn. That was like a 90-minute drive. And somebody finally was like, yeah, sure, why not? And very nice man drove me the entire way. I have stayed in far less expensive hotel rooms than that car ride cost me. But you know what? I got there, I was dry, I was safe. He was a good driver, and you know what? That's what you have to do sometimes. So it was an adventure in order to get there. We had already gotten an email from the cruise line saying, we know there are problems. We think we're still, we're still planning to leave, but we're going to leave later so that everybody has time to get here safely. So I was able to get over there, went through the embarkation process, got settled in, changed my clothes, got warm, things like that. And then from there, continued on. So it was several days of sailing at sea and then several days kind of interspersed throughout where we were stopping in various ports. I had signed up for a couple of shore excursions. And I'd been to French Canada, although I've not been to any of the places that we stopped other than when I was a child and don't remember it, in Halifax. So we sailed for a day. We stopped in Halifax. I had, of course, had hoped to want to see Peggy's Cove, but because I was booking so late, everything was already done with that. And I wound up booking a different excursion to the town of Lunenburg, which was about an hour drive away. And it was beautiful. Lunenburg is most recently been named a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is because it is the, I believe, oldest and finest example of a pre-planned English colonial town. And so we talked about kind of that history and what led to it, and then got to explore. There's an academy there. We had lunch at kind of a fishery, I forget the name of it, but a restaurant, and we were eating haddock that had been caught that morning in the bay and had been brought in for lunch. So that was fun. There was a yarn shop. There were the bookstores that I wandered around, and then the Blue Nose 2, which is a replica of the Blue Nose schooner, which is a famous Canadian schooner, is there. And unfortunately, we were literally one day late. They had stopped taking public on for tours and things the day before we got there. But I did get to go outside and, take pictures and whatnot. My family had sailed on that when I was a toddler. I don't remember it, of course, but it's been one of those things that the family talks about. And so it was a chance to get to see that again. So Halifax, and then Halifax is also the home of Cunard Line, the gentleman who founded the Cunard Line, which the Queen Mary II is part of. And so we heard a little bit about that. We heard they have a very strong connection to the Titanic disaster, so we heard about that, as well as some other historical things about Halifax. And then we also stopped in Saguenay, which is the site of, it's kind of down the St. Lawrence River, and it is the only fjord on this side of the Atlantic. If I have my facts right, it's a fjord, and it's the only one on this side of the Atlantic. And so we got to see that, and kind of the unique way that creates the landscape and the harbor there in town. They are a very industrial kind of aluminum town, but there's a lot of other types of industry there too. So one of the things that I did while I was in Saguenay was take a craftsman tour. And so we went to first a glass blower studio. So, I love that. I got to go and see a demonstration, visit that. And then we went to a cheese making shop. So we got to sample a lot of delicious cheeses and then learn about their process. And then we stopped at an alpaca farm, which was adorable. Alpaca are adorable. So that was really fun. And then, of course, I bought some yarn, and I didn't buy any cheese, but I did have poutine in town. The cheese factory had actually opened up a little restaurant right down by the harbor where you can go and get poutine, and I did have that. And then I also had some pineapple gelato at a gelato and chocolate shop down by the harbor as well. And I learned on this vacation that in my brain, unfortunately, there seems to be the bucket for English, and then there is the bucket for any other language, and it just mixes everything up together. I had taken French for a number of years in high school and college. I traveled to Paris. I can speak it a little bit. I can read it a little bit, although it's been many years since I've done that. And my skills are pretty minimal at this point, but I was like, perfect. I at least can get by in French. But when I was in Germany visiting family there, the couple of times I was there, anytime I would try and speak the little bit of German that I had learned phonetically, French would come out. And so I would be like ordering at the pretzel stand and French would come out. And I was like, okay, great. So I thought, well, that's fine. Here I'm going to be speaking French. I'm much better at this one. And then so I would start to speak French, and then German would come out. I was like, thanks a lot. There were several times in which I would try and say something, and English, French, and German all came out in the same sentence. So that was super successful. Yeah. But I was like, okay, apparently the way that my brain works is just, it's one or the other. It's English and anything else. So not my skill set, but I had a really wonderful time. When I was getting the gelato, there was a couple in front of me who only spoke English, and the proprietor, the person who was helping out, really only spoke French. And so it was a fairly lengthy process for them to get their gelato ordered. And so I came up and I said hello in French, and she responded, she's like, oh, you speak French, and she was so relieved and excited. And I was like, well, but we got by. We did get by, but it was interesting to kind of go back to what I thought I would be at least somewhat more skilled at and comfortable. And it's like, my brain was just like, yeah, no, we're going to give you German words. So thanks a lot. And then the last place that we stopped was Quebec City. I have not spent any time in Quebec City, but I am already making plans for doing that again because it was just, it's an old French walled city. And, you know, you kind of walk around, there's murals and art galleries and lots of shopping and kind of classic French downtown, like town square kind of feel. There is a funicular that you can ride from the bottom of the hill up to the top, and there's an old fort there. And then I've mentioned there's also a very, very fancy 5-star hotel at the top of this hill. It's literally, it's huge. You pull in and it's huge and it's all lit up at night, and you can't ignore it. And so one of the things that I did is I took the funicular up, and then I had second breakfast at the very fancy hotel. And it was a buffet that I was eating, and one of the things that they had was crepes. And so I was like, oh, sure, I'll have a crepe. So they had some chocolate sauce, and so I put a little chocolate sauce on my crepe. And then next to it, they also had some locally made maple syrup. And so I was like, well, I have to do that. So I put a little maple syrup on my crepe. And then I was walking down, and then they had some like homemade salted caramel sauce, so I had to put that on. And I was like, I think I have more sauce of a variety of flavors on this crepe than I actually have crepe at this point. But it was delicious, and that was kind of the theme of the vacation, was just utter self-indulgence. It was just relaxing, and there was an awful lot of food consumed. It's a cruise. There is food available constantly of a wide variety of things. And so there were, you know, like, Cunard is sort of known for being a little more formal than other lines. And so you had to dress up for dinner. Not maybe as much as you might think, but dressing up for dinner, it's a very formal occasion. There were multiple courses, of which you can have anything that you want from any or all of the courses. I think the shortest dinner I had was 90 minutes. Most of them were more like 2 hours, just because it's just a very leisurely process of enjoying and talking and, you know, whatever it is that you're working on. I found it actually sort of meditative. Like, there's just a chance to sit and appreciate and enjoy. So there was a lot of cooking, or there was a lot of eating. They have formal afternoon tea every day, so I did do that. Ate a lot. There were all kinds of things. There was breakfast in bed. There was whatever. There was a lot of eating going on at this trip. But there was also there were a lot of things to do because they are a transatlantic line, because they have a lot of periods at which they are at sea and not stopping anywhere. They provide quite a lot of entertainment. And so there were kind of educational things more in the morning. I took a couple of, I went to some lectures. They have a planetarium. There was a planetarium on board, so I went to the planetarium show. I heard Dailey, who is a Formula One racer, one of the early racers, talk a couple of times. I know nothing about Formula One other than the fact that it exists. But it was really fascinating to talk about somebody who was a high-performing participant in this sport, about what the sport was like, what it was like in the 70s and 80s when it was not safe. And the drivers were literally like pulling each other out of car fires and things like this. And being somebody who had been driven in wanting to do this, well, basically never having been prepared for the things that happened, like never being prepared for the disasters or the problems that he was facing. So it was really interesting. And then the other thing, which was really great, was the Royal Shakespeare Company has a partnership with Cunard, and there were several members of the ensemble who were sailing with us. They were on for a number of sailings. So I got to do a workshop with them. A lot of people, there were about a number of people with them. And so one morning we did kind of a 45-minute workshop understanding Shakespeare's language and how you parse it out, and iambic pentameter and those things. And we were working on Henry V's Once More Unto the Breach, Dear Friends speech. And they got to the end, and we'd done all of these activities and exercises, and they're like, okay, we need somebody to volunteer to read the entire speech. And I looked around the room, and like nobody else immediately put their hand up. So I was like, So I got to read that and participate, and everybody else was reacting and being part of it, which was just fun. And coincidentally, Henry V was the first show that I actually saw the Royal Shakespeare Company perform in Stratford. So I thought that was a really neat kind of full circle thing that was happening. They also did a performance, kind of a truncated performance of a fairly new musical called Miss Littlewood, which is about Jane Littlewood, who was a theater kind of producer, participant, big name in the kind of the 30s through the 70s in England, which I really enjoyed. And then they did a night of kind of monologues and dialogues and things like that. So that was just really neat. And so it felt like there was there was always time to do things, but if you wanted to, there was plenty of space to go and sit. I spent a lot of time just walking on the promenade deck or sitting, stitching, relaxing, reading, things like that. So it was just a wonderful chance to disconnect, to relax, to enjoy, and it confirmed that I absolutely want to do it again. I was certainly much younger than most everybody else on the ship, but it was also unusual that this was my first time, and that I was only going essentially one little jog of the trip. I was sitting next to somebody at dinner who had done a round the world sailing with them and was going to be doing another one. It's definitely kind of a way of life. So that was really fun. The other thing that I did on that trip is once I was done, I flew from Quebec City to Toronto. I have some family that lives in Ontario, and spent the rest of kind of a long weekend in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Niagara-on-the-Lake is the home to the Shaw Festival. Stratford Festival in Ontario is where they do mostly Shakespeare, and then Shaw is chiefly about the performance of the works of George Bernard Shaw, amongst others. And the show that I saw, I always try and grab a show while I'm there. We saw something called The Game of Love and Chance by Marivaux, who was a French playwright kind of in the early 1700s. And they kept it as a sort of, it's set in the 1700s, but the entire show was improvisation. So what they did was they had a set cast for it, but every performance they literally rolled a dice, and that determined who in the cast was going to play which role for that performance. And then they had been told to not read the script. They were told kind of general plot line, and then they were told, here's the mark that you need to hit in order for us to go to intermission. Somehow you have to get us there. And that's it. And other than that, they took suggestions from the audience. They made it up. It depended on who was playing the role and what they felt like doing that day. And it was just absolutely wonderful. So the general plot of this play is there is a young woman whose father wants her to get married, and she doesn't want to do that, but he's brought a suitor over. And so she concocts the plan that in order to get to know this guy without him being on his best behavior around her, she's going to switch places with her maid, and then she can watch him all day interacting with other people while the maid pretends to be her. But then unbeknownst to her, but known to her father, the gentleman has decided to do exactly the same thing. So they run around like doing chores together and getting to know each other. The performance that we saw, they were cleaning boots. So they were literally like cleaning shoes of people in the audience. There was a prize truffle pig that was about to give birth. So why not? Various other things. But it was fun. It was a really fun performance. It was definitely kind of, the improv coach for the entire company was part of it. She played the father. She was improvising in English and in French and in classic language, and just riffing it up and having a wonderful time. And it was enjoyable. So it was a unique experience. There was somebody else in the audience. There was a couple there that we were talking to. They were there for the 7th time because they were just like, it's different every time. Come back and enjoy it and see that. So I did that while I was there. I did purchase a copy of the script because I was curious about the original. So slight book talk. I did purchase a copy of the script and read it. And you could absolutely tell the bones of the story, even in the version that we saw. In the end, I didn't care for this translation, which was by, in case anybody cares, Stephen Mulrine. Not because it wasn't good, but it was because this script series is purposefully trying to modernize language for readers. And I found it to be more anachronistic than modern. Like, it's definitely modern, but it was still set in the 1700s. So it was like, why are you using that word? So I actually think what I would like to do is see a performance of the original script, not in potentially modern language, and not a improv version. But I enjoyed it. It was an interesting couple of things to read and kind of see the basis and then compare it to the thing that I had done as well. So anyway, all right, we are coming up on an hour. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed. Again, the retreat was wonderful. Vacation time was wonderful, and I'm looking forward to, I actually have a little bit more stitching coming up. Stitching at the Farm is coming up soon, and so I'll be participating in that. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful next couple of weeks, and I will catch you again soon. Bye, everybody.